Hold on, let me unmute you guys. There we go.
That might help.
What's up, Twitch? We are back. Sorry we did not do our episode yesterday. As you saw, we had a special intro that took part of the time. And yeah, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. As you saw from the intro, it is the holidays. So naturally, we will be talking about Joker. And we are joined by a special guest. He was just a voice in the previous episode. Now he's a face, still owns a PS5. Speaking of PS5, someone else is joining the PS5 club. It's not me. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Come January, find me on eBay. I'll be selling it to you.
So that's
fine,
cool,
folks. Only a 100% ups price, not the ridiculous prices you're seeing right now.
So as you can tell, enough PS5 talk. I don't have one. So as you can tell from the title and our slideshow, we were talking about the Joker, and our special guest has a special talent. Ricky.
Oh, shit.
You claim you can do the Mark Hamill Joker laugh.
Yes.
Can we hear that right now?
Oh boy. It's hit or miss, I think, on the spot like this, but we could try it out.
Let's try it out. We'll get a good one by the end of the show.
Maybe. That might be true. All right, you guys ready?
Born ready.
Okay.
That was pretty good.
It's not bad.
That was pretty
Not
good.
bad.
That
I
was a
would
good
have
one.
crumbled under pressure. I would have tried to do that, and I would have didn't like giggled. It would have sounded like Michael.
You would have sounded like
Michael Jackson or something.
I would have sounded like Kawhi Leonard.
God damn it.
Anyways, let's get this show on the road. We're talking Joker 2019, starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips of Hangover fame. Where should we start, boys? There's a lot to get to, so.
Well, I think the most important, like the biggest thing that came out about this movie was just how like polarizing it was. Which, when I first watched the movie in theaters, I didn't realize just how polarizing it would be. Like, to me, it wasn't exactly what I expected, but it was essentially what I expected. Like, I wasn't going in there not expecting. I was expecting a fucked up movie, you know, and that's exactly what we got. Like, because I knew it was going to be like a darker movie, but it seems like a lot of people were really like surprised by just how dark it got or caught off guard by that. And a lot of people either really liked it or really hated it. So like, what were your guys' takes on how dark the movie went and when you first saw it initially and how it holds up today?
Ricky, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I was kind of surprised at how dark it got too. I didn't know what to expect going in, so I was just watching it with an open mind. But I liked the backstory. I liked how they framed it. And I ultimately really liked the movie overall. Yeah.
I think what people were surprised by was kind of how real everything felt. Because I think most, at least the people who are like Batman fans, probably expected it to be dark. But yeah. I don't, because in a way it's almost relatable. Like, I don't think many people expected to relate to the Joker, right? Like, Who can
Yeah.
say that really? Like I don't relate to Heath Ledger's Joker. I can't really find sympathy for Jack Nicholson's Joker, right? But
Yeah.
this one is you kind of like just parts where you can identify with him, right? Just like you know, when he gets uncomfortable in situations and how he struggles to interact with people, you kind of feel for him. And I think that's what really caught people off guard, where you're almost rooting for the guy, right? Like this dude murdered. Spoiler alert, we always talk spoilers, so he fucking murders Murray, right? And everyone's like, oh, but then you're kind of like, he kind of deserved it. Fuck Murray.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did he deserve it? I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I mean, it like, okay, like if you saw someone bullying a mentally challenged kid and they got fucking wrecked, not necessarily murdered. Maybe murder's too far, but like let's just say they got wrecked. You'd be like, yeah, you kind of deserve that, dude.
What do you get when you cross a mentally ill person with a society that doesn't, I don't even remember, that doesn't give a damn about him or whatever? You get exactly what you deserve.
I will say this about this movie. Stoked his name was Arthur. Little trivia. Little trivia.
Yeah, because you're both sociopaths.
Yeah, remember I was talking about relating to this movie. That's it.
Yeah.
But it was the second consecutive year a cool Arthur was introduced to the world. The year previous was Arthur from Red Dead Redemption. So.
Oh, Arthur Morgan.
Mm-hmm. Both in October too. So.
Yeah.
Little
both had
there.
both had TB.
Let's talk about.
That's not true at all.
Let's talk about Joaquin Phoenix. When you heard he was going to be Joker, initial thoughts?
I didn't know what to make of it, heads or tails. Like, I mean, I thought I was going to be excited to see Jared Leto do it, and then that ended up being the biggest mistake of my life. So, like, until I actually saw something of what his Joker interpretation might be, I wasn't going to say anything about it or think anything of it. And then when the actual teaser came out, that's what sold me on it, because it was everything I've wanted in a Joker to be, and it was the exact polar opposite of Jared Leto's Joker, and in a lot of ways even Heath Ledger's Joker, where this teaser hinted at a Joker that was going to be more subtle, more based in reality, more like, you know, we're more darker, and not in that like Heath Ledger's Joker wasn't dark or anything, but like more that exactly what we got in the movie, we would kind of see what led him to this point. I didn't get the impression, though, where the movie kind of fooled me, at least because I didn't watch any of the trailers. I avoided the trailers completely. So I had only gone into this movie having seen just the really short teaser that they did. And I had no idea that Murray was going to be this sympathetic of a character. I thought we were going to go into this movie already him
Murray
having,
or Arthur?
Sorry, Arthur. Arthur being this like sympathetic character. I was going in more feeling like he was going to start out already with like a darkness in him, which he does technically have in him, but like more prominent and less like sympathetic, if that makes sense.
Ricky?
I didn't know what to expect with Joaquin Phoenix. I just knew that, he was a really good actor, and I'd seen him in a couple other movies, but, as a supervillain, I didn't know what to expect, especially, considering Heath Ledger and Bueno. But yeah, overall, I thought he did, really well. I think he probably was the best, I guess, to use for this sort of plot for the Joker, like his backstory, like making him so sympathetic and making him so much more like a real kind of person. I feel like maybe Joaquin Phoenix was the best actor to portray that. just thought he did a really good job, especially after, because I paid pretty frequent attention to the trailers. So when I saw him do the Joker laugh at like the very beginning when he's getting called into his boss's office,
The really high
I
pitched
was
one,
like,
right?
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, I feel good about this. This should
Mhm.
hopefully go well.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as you guys. After they casted Heath Ledger, I learned to never judge casting. I'm just like, yeah, you know what? No, reserve judgments until I see something like you said, Austin. And it was actually after he got announced and after they released that teaser, it was almost hard to avoid not learning anything because there were so many set pictures that leaked. Like, I would think one of the first scenes that leaked where he was in full like Joker outfit was the subway scene where he's walking off the
Hmm.
train and he trashes the mask. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that first teaser got me super hyped, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready for it. Before we dive into like the meat of the discussion, just real quick, I want to kind of gauge your guys' opinions on Joker Origins. So a lot of people, a lot of Batman fans don't want Joker Origins out there. They like the multiple choice. That's their like the buzzword, the multiple choice backstory, and they didn't really want to see a Joker origin movie. What were your guys' thoughts on a Joker origin movie? Does that bother you, or are you completely fine with it? Just this movie, like just your thoughts on this movie aside, just the idea of a Joker origin movie, did that bother you at all?
Go ahead, Ricky.
So I would say no, and the reason is because Joker is, for me with Batman, I immediately associate Joker as the main villain for him.
Mm-hmm.
So especially considering there's been a lot of Batman movies that have kind of been, reproduced recently, it felt like a kind of like a fresh takeaway to go down for the same kind of storyline in a general sense. So I like the idea, especially considering how well it went with the Joker this one. So yeah, I welcome it. I think it's a good option to pursue.
I honestly, to even after seeing the movie, like I know you said disregarded, but I honestly don't need it. Like I think, like to me, like what makes the Joker the most interesting is the fact that we don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about where he comes from. We don't know anything other than he is the foil to for Batman. Like he is the epitome of what happens when Batman raises the stakes. You know, it's that whole thing of escalation that the Dark Knight series kind of goes into, but we're not going to talk about that. But like Joker, like
No Nolan talk.
No Nolan talk. Joker represents, just this force that appears when, to challenge something that seems so like overpowering and so strong, and like, Batman's just beating up on all these criminals, and then all of a sudden here comes, this person that shouldn't be his equal, that shouldn't be somebody that can stand up to Batman, but is able to because he's just such an enigma. He's such, a mystery to even Batman himself, the greatest detective, right? So like, to me, that's where my interest from the Joker comes. So to see an origin movie, like no matter how you cut it, an origin movie's always, because the purpose of an origin movie is to go before they become what we know them as today, right? Obviously. Mm-hmm. So like you're always going to get the pieces of like what were they like before they became the Joker. And to me, that's the least interesting thing about the Joker is that, I don't care who he was before he was the Joker. I care about him as the Joker. And that's honestly, I know we're not like going too deep into the discussion just yet, but that's honestly my biggest complaint about this movie is that we barely get him as the Joker. And like, I honestly think there is too much Arthur stuff in this movie a lot of the time.
I see both sides of it, but to me, I kind of am interested in origin stories for villains, especially the Joker, because it's not necessarily a foreign idea to put a Joker origin out there like Tim Burton did with Jack Nicholson. Like there was a small backstory there. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was there. And then, all the other adaptations that are like in the animated movies and the comic books are there. So you do have origin stories with Joker. I think where people's beef with this is that a lot of people just take something that's in a movie as the end all be all to this character, which I can see. You know what I mean? Like, oh, people are just gonna assume, yeah, this is how the Joker became the Joker. When in reality, this is just one take. You know what I mean?
Well, to that point, like, obviously I'm like, we're all DC fans here, like, so like, yeah, I mean, I'm aware of the various interpretations of the Joker's origins that exist within the comics. I've read up on like all the I've never read the comics, but I've read up on all the backstory and lore and synopsises of like the various backstories that exist about him. The only thing the issue that I have is that there probably is a few good ones here and there, but like for the most part, a lot of them aren't very good. At least not to today, not to today's standards. Like the most popular one I think is him falling into the vat of acid, right?
Yeah.
So like that one's just not good. Like it wouldn't fit today's standards of like movie like realism or like what we expect from a Batman movie. It's just too cartoony, it's too outlandish, and it's just there would probably not really be a good way to execute that on a live action format, as we've seen with Suicide Squad. Just one of the worst scenes in cinematic history, like I'm gonna be honest. But to me, this one, like, even though I say I don't care for an origin story, I will say that of all the origin stories I've seen for how the Joker becomes the Joker, I think this one is the best one. I just don't think it was necessary because it's not exactly what I personally look for in terms of a Joker movie. But I do think this is the best interpretation of the Joker's origin.
I mean, the thing I love about the Joker and just the Batman universe in general is how serious people take it, but also how like ridiculous it is if you really think about it. Like none of this makes any sense. Yeah. Like you're talking about someone who can stand up to Batman. It's a fucking clown. Like nothing makes sense, and it's great. But I love it. So yeah, let's just dive on in to our conversation. Let's start with Arthur Fleck. Man. What a troubled guy. I guess we could start with
hey, we've all been Arthur Fleck at a moment in our lives.
I was Arthur Fleck. I don't know, maybe a couple days ago. I don't know. So yeah, one of the things that you could kind of take away from your first viewing is that he finds humor in like suffering and pain, even if it's his own. So what I mean by that is in the opening scene, when he gets beat up by those kids, right? And you see him lying on the ground, he still finds it in him to activate his flower, right? It's almost like he's like, well, fuck, this sucks, but you know what? I'm still who I like. It's kind of funny that I got my ass kicked by kids. Like, I don't know. To me, there's just something about him just like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm kind of losing my train of thought, but like, I think he finds humor in pain, and that's what he finds funny, and that's what amuses him. What do you guys think of that statement?
I don't know. I never really interpreted it as that. I kind of more interpreted it as like a coping mechanism almost. Like, obviously, there's the laughing that he has as a part of his condition, right, that he can't control. But then there's also the glimpses we see where he is in control, right? So, like you said, like there's like the little things, like even though he's in pain, he like does the flower, he activates his flower on, and then the one that most people point to is when he's in the clown locker room. At Clown University, Gotham, and and the little person comes in, and they make a joke about him, and he starts laughing, and then the minute he walks into the back and like turns a corner where nobody can see him, he just like completely shuts it off. Where like that's where we kind of get a glimpse of him being able to like put on a face when he needs to. Or like, where when he feels like he needs to just kind of like survive. And even when he drops the gun at the children's hospital, he still tries to like play it off and like shushes the kid, you know, because like to me, like those are all humorous moments. Those are things.
I 100% agree with it as a coping mechanism, but I'm just talking in general in a statement as of his sense of humor. So like for example, there was that part that I mentioned briefly, and then you know, his whole joke, right? His whole joke at the end of the movie where he was going to go on the late night show, he was going to kill someone as his punchline, right? It was either going to be himself or it was going to, it ended up being Murray. And then another kind of example of him kind of finding humor in suffering is at the very end when he's talking to the new therapist, the new Arkham Asylum therapist, right? Where he starts laughing to himself and she goes, oh, and she asks what's funny and says, you wouldn't understand. Next thing we know, he's walking out and there's blood on the, you know, on the floor. So I do 100% agree that it's a coping mechanism, and that's actually something I wanted to touch on. But Ricky, what about you? Your thoughts on if the Joker finds humor in like suffering?
I think I agree with both of those. And to me, it's almost like he put into like, I guess, modern examples. I think he almost thinks of himself as like a meme at times when things go wrong. And I think like with the whole like the flower thing and whatnot. So I think it's like a mix of both. I think it's like a clever thing that the movie does to add that in there to kind of like sprinkle something different in there, I guess.
Layers. There's layers to it. So speaking of the laughing, he obviously laughs when he's suffering or when he's uncomfortable. But upon rewatching the movie, so a lot of the scenes where he was just laughing randomly, where he has those laugh attacks, there's nothing really out of the ordinary going on, right? He's just interacting with people, but he's just slightly offbeat, right? So like when the mom starts freaking out, he starts laughing. When that girl's getting harassed and those guys, you know, start interrogating him, he starts laughing. So in those situations, he starts laughing where he gets uncomfortable. The one place I noticed he didn't laugh was the asylum. And to me, I was like, because when he goes in there, he's not laughing at the crazy guy behind him, right? Typically, that would be uncomfortable for anyone, but for him, it's not. So to me, I kind of took that as he almost feels safe, sane with all these insane people. And then he doesn't laugh in that facility until he finds out that his mom wasn't actually his mom and she was abusive and stuff like that. Then he starts doing that uncomfortable suffering laugh again, and I just thought that was that was something I didn't notice initially, but upon my second viewing today, it's kind of like, oh, you know what, he's not laughing at all. Like none of this crazy shit is making him uncomfortable, which I thought was interesting. What do you guys think? Do you guys notice that, or is it?
I didn't notice it until you pointed it out, but that is an interesting thing. And like to add on to that, I think like, maybe like at a certain point, he maybe felt like a certain calmness being there because he felt like he, you know, as bad as things were, he felt like he wasn't that bad, and he still had that over, you know, all of them. And like he still saw himself as a normal person, no matter how much he didn't feel like acknowledged by other people. And then him finding out about his mom and stuff, that's what kind of pushed him over the edge to like, okay, like everything I know is a fucking lie. Everything's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like fuck being a normal person anymore at this point. Fuck trying to pretend to be that. Like I'm just gonna. That's, you know, that's obviously when he has his moment where he starts to like become the Joker, like definitively.
Yeah. Ricky, any thoughts?
I actually didn't notice that either. I'll point out. But as you had mentioned it, I kind of started thinking too about because before that, the social worker had mentioned that, you know, they were cutting the funding. The city was cutting the funding, and he was talking about, you know, not getting his medication anymore. So I was wondering if that also might have been playing a factor, because he kept saying that when he wasn't on his medication, he was feeling better.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was part of it too. And then, you're right. I think at that point he was like, you know, there's no way this is true. There's no way that my mom adopted me. There's no way that she was like completely insane. And then I think when he kind of opened up the file and realized, so this is all seemingly true, I think he probably thought, you know, I really am kind of fucked in this sort of life of mine. Like that's when that like maniacal laugh of like, okay, I guess I just kind of have to give up now.
Just
It's like fuck me, right?
Yeah, like
touching on the laugh, I read that the hardest part for playing Joker for Joaquin was the laugh. Homeboy came up with like 3. So wow, damn, dude, like he seriously came up with like 3 different ones. It was fucking like, and they were all like really good too. It was like, damn, you got that shit on lock. So sticking on this whole laughing theme, I noticed he actually hurt the people that he actually made laugh, even though they weren't laughing at him in the way he wanted to. I had another example, but I didn't write it down. But obviously Murray, right, who was laughing at him, but not with him. And I thought that was funny that like when people were actually laughing, he was like go off the rails and fucking like shoot them in the face, I guess. But that was something that I found funny and interesting.
Because like, you know, he doesn't want to be the one that's solely the butt of the joke, right? Like
Yeah.
to me, a lot of what the Joker character embodies is that we're all the butt of the joke. You know, like my life is a fucking mess and I'm this way because of the way that society shaped me to be, but you're all going to be down here with me too. And like if you're laughing at me, that means you think of yourself above me. That's not the case. You know, like I am evil. He's literally like evening the playing field, you know?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Murray, did you guys catch that the whole first fantasy scene he had where he was in the audience and he was like, "Oh, I love you, Murray," and he calls him down. Did you guys notice that was foreshadowing the whole Zazie Beats scene? Because to me,
Not initially, no.
upon second viewing, I was like, "Oh, this is definitely foreshadowing." Because in all of his fantasies, nothing ever goes wrong. Like everything is right. So in that moment, everything was fine. When he's at the comedy club, everything is fine. Everyone's laughing. When he's with Zazie, he literally can do no wrong, and she's almost like talking up his actions. Right when he murdered those people, she's like, "Yeah, I thought those assholes deserved it." And it's like, it's not until I watched it the second time I was like, "Oh shit!" Like they're basically telling you that whenever something really good is happening to him, it's a fucking fantasy in his head. And I thought that was like, oh, makes a lot of sense now. And you could kind of pick out that his interactions with her are like a fantasy, because she like, I believe when she confronts him about him like following her, she's like, Arthur, like she's talking like she knows him when she would really not really have any idea who she is. And I know she ends up mentioning him when he comes in at the end. She goes, "Oh, you're Arthur, right?" So that sort of debunks that theory, but I mean, we all knew there was something up. It was like, there's no way this bitch would be interested in this fucking crazy dude.
No, not at all. like especially when she knows that he followed her to work.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how like not like far away this is from like 2020. That's still creepy. That's just as creepy in the 70s as it is in 2020.
They say that you're only as creepy as you are attractive. Arthur Flick's not attractive, so sure. Flick, I forgot, but you know what I mean. So it's like, yeah, bro, there was no way that was working for you, my dude. That was not the move.
But no, like, you know, again, like it was interesting to like see that though, the way you bring it up, because it was like just another way for him to like cope through like how shitty his life is. Because like, I mean, I feel like we've all kind of been in that moment where like things are kind of shitty right now, and maybe you kind of daydream a little bit and like imagine a world where like, or a time in your life where things are like better, you know. And like he just happens to do that more frequently than most people, you know, where like he's kind of just living in this fake world that he created for himself, where he has these figures of people that he wants to be acknowledged by, affirming him and like telling him that what he's doing is right, even though the rest of the world is saying it's wrong or not the way that you should behave, right? Like one of the more genius things to come out of the movie is the thing that he wrote in his journal, where it's like the funny thing about mental illness is that people expect you to behave normally when you're not, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's probably the most poignant thing that this movie has said, because I think that's something that we often forget, you know, or often take for granted, you know, in terms of when we address people that are going through these types of problems or mental issues or whatnot.
Agreed. Do you guys have any thoughts as to why he attached to her so strongly? Because I have a theory, but I'm curious as to if you guys have any ideas.
I mean, she's an attractive woman. There's one, and literally, like, he lives in a shithole, right? Like, let's be honest. What are the odds that there's another attractive girl that lives in that building?
Okay, very general.
Yeah.
Ricky?
No, I don't know why he did that. I honestly, the whole movie, I was pulling through that it was not a hallucination. I really wanted one thing to go right for him. But when it ultimately was revealed that it was not, I felt so gutted. Like, that was the worst point for me in the movie. I was like, oh my god, this poor guy.
So I have a theory. So, you know, Arthur says a line in the movie where he goes, "All I have are negative thoughts," right? And when you're first introduced to, I guess her name is Sophie. I don't even know if they ever said it in the movie, but that's her character name. When Sophie runs into the elevator, and and they're like have that interaction, she does the gun to the head, and to me, I think for him it was like, oh, this person gets me. This person is miserable just like me. Like, she wants to blow her brains out just like I do sometimes. And the reason why I think that is because when he invades her apartment towards the end, he does that same gesture, right? Like, almost like it was like, remember me and you, huh? So that's kind of why I feel like he had such a strong fixation. It's because he's like, oh, maybe she understands me. Maybe, she sees me for who I am and she knows the feeling when everyone else doesn't. And yeah, maybe she is just hot. I don't know. But that's kind of something that like came into my mind when I was watching. I was like, oh, I think he thinks she understands him and identifies with him. And that's why he has such an obsession with her. But
I mean, that probably makes a lot more sense than my theory, but
because she says, oh, you live down the hall, right? So I'm assuming they've seen each other. Maybe they've seen each other previously, or maybe she just knows him from that ride. But in my head canon, they've run into each other a few times here and there.
So yeah, I definitely think they've run into each other a few times. They probably don't speak a lot, but like at least enough times to where she's aware of where he lives and what his name is, you know. So to him though, and like I've seen this in real life with people that just don't get much attention from anybody, not even just girls. Like the minute somebody even shows them a hint of that, they latch on.
Yeah.
Like people that aren't used to like being interacted with or talked to, the minute somebody shows them even a little bit of hint of kindness, like that's enough for them to like think the world of this person and attach themselves. And like, I'm not going to get into any details or anything, but I've experienced this firsthand. Like
I just saw a meme today where it was like, my crush, hi, me. It plays out the whole scene of Ellie and Carl's relationship from Up. It fast forward, it just goes through it all. That's what that reminded me of. Yeah.
That's basically what he does.
Yeah. Man, how good was that reveal though when she ends up like it's like no, none of this happened. Because it's like something
Brilliant.
that like should be obvious, but it still gets you. It's like, oh fuck.
That's sort of thing. Like I've seen a lot of other podcasts talk about this movie, and a lot of the people that say that they saw it coming or whatever, like maybe so, maybe they're just smarter than me. At least I didn't. I mean, maybe if I was really looking, I would have saw it coming, but I didn't. It kind of surprised me when it happened. But like they kind of sometimes they just downplay like how good of a reveal it is, and I think that reveal is amazing in the way it sets it up. You're like, oh shit!
Listen,
that was my reaction in the theater
guys,
for sure.
There's nothing wrong with a movie pulling the curtain off your eyes and tricking you. Like, you should want that. Do you want movies to be predictable? Like,
do you remember The Prestige? You want to be tricked.
You want to be tricked. Or maybe we're just basic and we want to be tricked.
No, when I watch a movie, very rarely try to predict what's going to happen unless the movie's boring as all hell. Then I'll just be like, all right, let's see if I can figure out what's going to
I'm always like,
happen.
okay, I'm going to guess what happens next. And it's the way I think the way this movie did it though was just there was something so genius about it because it's like you obviously know something's up, right? From the beginning, from the jump, you're kind of like, why is she like? Why is this?
Yeah,
going
the
on?
whole time
Like,
you're questioning why the fuck is she into him?
And then it's almost like confirming your worst fears. it's like, yeah, I expected this. Why does this hurt so much?
Like, see, here's the thing, right? Like, it's like in your head, right? You're watching a movie. Like, oh, you could do so much better for yourself. Like, what are you doing?
Where's your daughter?
But then, yeah, that's also true. Where's your daughter? But then here's the thing, right? Is like I've seen couples in real life where I'm like, yo, what are you doing?
I think maybe people didn't like that scene because it was them projecting onto the movie their own feelings
sure.
and experiences. Ricky, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, it just completely gutted me. I was hoping that would just be the one true thing in this guy's life. That maybe not a lover or a girlfriend, but like maybe a best friend or like a friend or something. Just somebody like he could relate and feel comfortable with. But.
Yeah, you know what it is, guys. I think we're just such good people that we're just looking for the best in people, and that's why we were fooled. You guys know.
You know what's the most fucked up thing though about that hallucination is that after he killed those 3 guys, like his first thought was to imagine him going to her place and making out with her.
Yeah.
Like it turned him on almost.
Yeah. I could kind of see that, like I could see that being part of his character. So fuck, that subway scene though was so good. Probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Like, oh, I thought you were stretching.
No. Well, maybe.
So speaking of which, there's something to be said about dance during this movie. It's a recurring thing in the movie. It's like, how do I describe it? It's almost
I'm
like,
gonna tell you right now,
yeah.
that YouTube eras of dance guy has a run for his money. I'll tell you. Joaquin Arthur Fleck goes through so many different styles of dance in this movie.
Is that guy even still dancing? Like
I don't. Rumor has it he's still dancing to this day because obviously time doesn't stop. So just eras keep coming.
I heard Fortnite hired him to be the guy that does the mocap for all the dances. But yeah, do you guys notice that like so kind of like everyone he aspired to be was dancing. So Murray does this little weird. First of all, that's fucking weird. Like if I saw a late night host just like what? Nah. But Murray dances, and then in this scene when he first gets his gun and he's watching that movie of people dancing, and he he's fantasizing, right? He's like, oh, you're such a good dancer. He wants to be a good dancer. What do you guys think that's about? Like the whole dancing mechanic in this movie. So
Ricky, do you have any thoughts?
I just kind of thought of this now, but I was gonna say that it to me it almost seems like whenever he dances, it's like when he's feeling either his best or most comfortable with himself.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like. So I think it's like his. I don't want to say like his mating call or whatever, but it's just like him like kind of strutting his stuff. Like it's like I am the shit right now, you know. Like this is me.
He got his mojo back, baby.
Actually, yeah. Now that you bring that up, like I do agree that he does feel his best. Like that was kind of one of my thoughts. But it's like it's one of those things where it's like I think I just lost my fucking train of thought. Fuck, what was I doing? Fuck it. It'll come back to me. Austin, go ahead if you have any thoughts.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think he definitely like that's his way of expressing himself. That's like the only way he can like kind of just let loose and do, it's like the meek, quiet guys that, don't say anything or don't ever do anything like impressive in their lives. But then the minute they get their chance at SAC Anime to go to the rave, they're ready. And they're living their best lives. And
okay. I think I got it. Because to me,
jazz hands all around.
So yeah, I do agree. Like it's him feeling his best, but it's one of those things where it's like dancing is like one of the most vulnerable things you can do. It is one of the most easiest things to judge someone on and to look like a damn fool doing. You know what I mean? And to just knock you off your whatever high you're on. Like if someone just says, "Dude, you fucking dance like an idiot," never gonna dance again. So I thought that
Never
was interesting.
gonna dance again.
But yeah, he and then I think it was almost like an alternative coping mechanism. Or he was really happy when like he dances when he's happy, right? And going back to his sense of humor, I believe he dances after every time he kills. So he danced in the mirror after he killed those 3 dudes. I don't know if this counts, but he did dance on the stairs after killing Randall. The whole famous dance scene. And then before he walks off the stage after he kills Murray, he makes an effort to do a little and then kind of walk off. So yeah, there's something about dancing that the Joker fucking loves. And in the beginning, the happiest you probably see him throughout the movie, he's dancing at the beginning with the sign. He's like, like he's fucking loving life. And then, that shit goes down. But yeah,
man, imagine if like Arthur like lived long enough to like when Donald Trump was president and he took that, like you said, he like kind of dances like the people he admires. He'd probably be a Trump supporter, right? And then
the double jerk off.
The double handy.
So both the previous things that we talked about, both having someone to relate to and dancing, kind of leads into this scene that I want to talk about. Because again, when I watched it the second time, I actually was able to kind of pick apart a few things. But the Bruce Wayne scene, I just want to get your guys' thoughts before I kind of delve into some ideas I had about it.
I would like to get before I dive into the scene, I would like to just make this point. I hate all the Bruce Wayne stuff. I wish it wasn't in this movie at all.
Okay, that's fair.
Don't need it. It is completely unnecessary. I mean, the Thomas Wayne stuff's great. I love that Thomas Wayne's an asshole in this, and they make him like what a real rich politician would be. But I don't need any of the Bruce Wayne stuff.
Before you dive into that, what I have to say about it might make you appreciate it a little bit more, but go on.
Well, so the thing that I've heard people talk about was like, what's the big thing that you take away from the scene? the Bruce Wayne scene, right, is that he fucking sticks his fingers in the kid's mouth. It's the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
I have a theory on that.
Well, I think I know what your theory is because I think I might have heard it too. Then,
Okay.
So follow me if we're going to the same place here, where he sticks his fingers in his mouth to like do the smile to like, because he at this point he thinks that this is his brother, right? So like at the beginning of the movie, you see him painting his face, and he does that to himself.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the theories I've been hearing is that him doing that was his way of trying to see himself in Bruce.
Not where I'm going with it.
I've heard.
Not where I'm going with it. Going completely
fuck me,
different
right?
direction. I will not follow you, sir. I am turning around at haste.
Let me go back to my point then of that this is unnecessary and this doesn't need to be in the movie at all.
Ricky?
Yeah, I just thought it was very creepy. I kind of like cringed a little bit when he did it.
It is creepy. It is gross and creepy.
Bruce Wayne's like what, 9, 10? Like no kid's gonna let somebody do that to them.
Yeah, what the fuck was wrong with Bruce? Anyways,
he's just like sitting there.
Like I don't know who's more of a sick fuck in this scenario, like Arthur or Bruce.
Like
for
what
letting it happen.
Like honestly, like what if fucking Arthur like fucking just unzipped and whipped it out and just like stuck it in his, like is Bruce just gonna be like okay, this is happening? Like for
I
real,
hope not.
He could have done anything at that point. Like you know what I mean? Like when you meet a stranger, the last place I want anything of theirs is my mouth. like nah. Mouth is off limits.
So this is what you were telling me was going to sound.
Yeah. So here's how you make the scene better. He unzips and.
Oh no! No.
Okay. So let me get to my theory. That whole scene was kind of foreshadowing their future. So if you go back and watch, or when you guys went back and watched it, if you notice, they're both wearing the same color palette of clothes. They both have a brown jacket, beige like shirt, black pants, right? And when Arthur goes up to him, right, and does the mouth thing, to me, he does that at the beginning to kind of cope with himself, right? To put on a happy face, even though he's feeling like shitty all the time. And I think he sees that in Bruce. Well, it kind of like foreshadows what's going to happen to Bruce, because to me, they both mirror each other in that moment. So when he does that, it's foreshadowing the suffering Bruce is going to have later on in life, right? So his parents are going to die. Arthur Fleck has no parents, right? This is both something that's going to eat at them for the rest of their lives. And I think that it's kind of like a nod to like, you and me, we're going to be dance partners, right? I understand you, you understand me. And then it was kind of like that. I agree. Like in the context of the movie, it's kind of fucking weird, but this is a Joker origin story, right? So we're going to see why he's so fixated on Batman, why this is all that, you know, their relationship is the way it is. So that's kind of how, I saw it. Is that it was kind of like a taste of things to come, essentially.
You did that on purpose.
He's like, you had chicken fingers for lunch, huh?
Hot Cheetos. But that's kind of how I interpreted the scene upon the second viewing. It was kind of like, I think they're doing something here.
While we're on the topic, can we talk about how useless of a character Bruce is in this movie? Like now that I'm thinking back on it, this kid literally does nothing throughout the whole movie. Doesn't react to anything.
Look, okay, so again, you're adding to this.
He didn't even react to his parents dying. He was just like,
that's his coping mechanism. So like here's a. Speaking of being like each other, just letting shit happen. Apparently Arthur was fucking tied to a radiator and just let that shit happen. And what was his coping mechanism? He fucking laughed. So I'm assuming if Bruce was tied to a radiator, he'd just be chilling there, just doing nothing. Yeah, Bruce fucking sucks in this movie, but that's how I kind of got value out of that scene. Because yeah, when you look at that scene, it's just kind of like, oh, that's gross. That's fucking weird. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Ricky, on what I
like
just said?
Your explanation more than just my, initial reaction to it. Because yeah, like I said, I just minute like he reached his hand to the bars, I was like, oh, please just don't like please don't touch his mouth or anything. And so yeah, I like your explanation more that it's a foreshadowing to his suffering and whatnot.
Yeah.
I was also maybe thinking that maybe just because himself, Arthur, is such a sad person that he saw Bruce as sad. Like, okay, I do this to myself. Let me do this to you. See if it helps you kind of go through it. So yeah, I like your explanation for it.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I got out of it. But also, what if he did?
That's luckily Alfred stepped in before that could happen.
Alfred was kind of useless in that scene. Homeboy did like nothing really.
Yeah,
he didn't do anything either, but he at least got in between.
Speaking of foreshadowing, I think we know which Batman this Bruce becomes. By the way, it happens in that scene too, the Adam West scene, because he slides down a pole at the beginning. He becomes Adam West Batman for sure.
I don't know how what other questions you have, but this does kind of relate to something I did want to talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
During this discussion. So my idea, because I'm gonna be honest, the second time I watched this movie, I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I did the first time around. I thought the movie was brilliant the first time around. I think the second time around, especially after recent events, I think there's a lot of flaws that the movie has where it kind of pretentiously acts like it's having a deeper message than it really does. And so the movie doesn't hold up in a lot of aspects to me. And I still think it's a good movie. I still enjoy the movie, but it's just not a groundbreaking movie like maybe I thought it was initially. But that being aside, my ideal future for this movie, or at least this movie's place in the DC universe, is we have Joker, right? Takes place in the 1970s. Arthur, let's not be coy, right? Arthur Fleck is no spring chicken. This guy's 40? He looks like he's in his late 30s to 40s, right? At least story-wise, character-wise. So he's old, he's not young. And then we have the Batman coming out, which takes place in the 90s with Robert Pattinson. We know now from reveals of the movie and people talking about the movie that this is going to be a year 2 Batman. So he's not a newbie, but he's still really fresh into the role of being Batman.
Right.
So my ideal future for this movie is that Arthur Fleck is not actually the Joker. Arthur Fleck is a guy who had these mental issues, had all these unfortunate things happen to him that unfortunately put him into a path to become this martyr for the city of Gotham during this really hectic time in the 70s where these riots were happening and there was this classism stuff going on, and he basically became the symbol of that. And obviously people know who he is. People his identity isn't a secret. People know who he is. They know his past, and he becomes this hero, which is completely unrealistic, by the way. But he becomes this symbol. So I think a way to kind of make up for that, how much that doesn't fucking make any sense, if you really think about it, is that this isn't really the Joker that ends up fighting Batman. This is somebody that the actual Joker, maybe who was younger at the time, who is a troubled kid, sees and takes inspiration from these events that puts him on his own path to become the Joker that ends up fighting the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, later on. I know they've already said that these movies aren't connected, but I'm just saying, my ideal scenario, right? So then after the Batman comes out and we see Robert Pattinson do his thing, then we would get the Joker movie, not just Joker, the Joker, and that would carry over You laugh, but some Warner Brothers exec is like jizzing themselves right now.
Hold on, wait a second, one sec. Wait a second, exact. I have another idea to add on to that. So before you release the Joker, you release a Joker. You make it a whole trilogy. So there's Joker, a Joker, but then the Joker. and then you start off the new trilogy with the Joker that fights Batman.
I mean, it's funny because this is happening right now as we speak, because Suicide Squad came out, and then now James Gunn is coming out with the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, which is a soft reboot.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's entirely possible to happen, and then we get, you know, this younger Joker that is more radical because he's inspired by what Arthur Fleck did, and he wants to take it to another level. And this is where we can actually get like crime boss Joker that is like more like maybe a little bit more closer to Heath Ledger, you know, and it's just more of this chaotic energy rather than this like sympathetic, like mental ill person.
Ricky, any hopes for this ultimate ideal scenarios for this movie? Or are you good with how it is?
I'm good with how it is. I kind of was barely thinking about like how the Joker might be in this movie, and part of me wants to say maybe he might be in his late 20s, early 30s. And the only reason I say that is because one, his mom doesn't look that old, even though I know he's taking care of her and she's kind of, you know, crazy and all there. But I don't think she's like that old.
She was.
To me, it appears like
he was adopted though.
And true, he was adopted, so there's that. But I didn't think he was that old. But I know, like in real life, Joaquin Phoenix is, you know, older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of like it the way it is. I mean, it'd be interesting if they did that with the Joker.
What if Bruce becomes the Joker in this Joker universe?
which has happened in the comics. So I mean, would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, he did fucking let that fucked up shit happen to him. So yeah, I'm sure it's probably messed him up. And then witnessing his parents die. So, you know, they say all it takes is one bad day. That's the whole Joker thing, is one bad day. And then, you know, sets you off.
How do you, what do you guys think of the whole tying the Joker's, like, the rampage, the riots that he basically caused? What do you think of Bruce's parents dying being tied to that?
I felt like that wasn't necessary. Like, if you want to talk about taking things out of a movie that doesn't need to happen, that right there is definitely my top gripe, is we didn't need to see that. It didn't add anything to the movie. It didn't add anything to Batman lore. If there's going to be no sequels in this movie, why even bother? Like, yeah, if I had to like get rid of one scene, it would be that one for sure. Like, I didn't care for it. Did nothing for me. I will admit though, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I know where they're going with this, and then it happened, and I was like, oh, okay.
Like, oh,
yeah, here we go. Yep, there it is. But yeah, that's my take on it real quick.
Ricky?
I would say I liked it. I didn't think that's where it was going to go initially, but one, I thought he had it coming to him. Two, I thought if they do a sequel, if they do a sequel, which I've always been hoping for, I thought it would be, you know, a nice addition. Because Bruce is old enough that he could understand that his parents' death was tied to that, like the Joker, like leading that uprising. So for that like reason alone, I kind of like it. But yeah, I guess if you're right, if they don't do any further sequels of this or any continuation, it doesn't really hold any extra meaning other than, I guess it's just something that I like to have it.
For me, another issue I have with it is the whole like logistics of that scene just doesn't make sense to me. If you're Thomas Wayne, right, these people obviously hate you, and there's a riot going on, are you going to go walking through a fucking alley out of the theater, or are you going to have your security team around you, like protecting your family and yourself from all these crazy dudes in like clown costumes fucking breaking shit and possibly going to attack you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make sense that they would just choose to walk through an alley after their play after this shit's going down.
Especially if you're running for mayor and it is known that there is this huge classism battle going on right now where people are really angry with rich people, specifically you, because you are the you are literally the symbol of rich people in Gotham.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just doesn't make any sense that he would be in that situation to begin with.
But I mean, yeah.
I wonder if it's almost like a sense of entitlement from Wayne, like thinking like, you know, I am, you know, Wayne Thomas, like I'm
untouchable.
Who would dare, try to kill me or hurt me?
It could be.
Like,
rich people do think that way.
I mean, we have seen evidence within the movie putting that he's willing to get himself, where he fucking literally punches Arthur Fleck in the face in the bathroom. Did he wash his hands? I don't even remember if he
was washing his hands. Yeah. Okay. That's when Arthur was bothering him.
A freshly cleaned pair of hands too. You know, that's even more disrespectful. It's like, I just washed my hands, but I'm willing to dirty them up again with blood. With your blood.
Real quick, let's not spend too much time on it because there is one more thing I want to get into before we do our casting game. But was Thomas Wayne involved with Arthur's mom? Yes or no? Thoughts, if you guys have any on that.
I don't think so. I think the movie presents enough evidence to suggest that, like, this really was just a fabrication of her. Because, like, I think the movie does do a good job of just how mental illness can be passed down in a lot of ways. Like, in like how a lot of the issues that we like suffer like as kids up into adulthood can come from how we were raised. Yeah. And I think it's very clear that, you know, it's made very clear that Penny was like not mentally there. There's evidence that she actually was at that hospital. Like, these are all things that support what Thomas Wayne was essentially telling him in that bathroom. You know, like, everything that Thomas Wayne said, other than that he didn't have relations with her, because we obviously don't know, we never see whether or not that's actually true, but him saying everything else leading up to it, that he was adopted, that she was in the hospital, that she is mentally unstable, and that he was abused. You know, all that other stuff was true. So, you know, to me, it's like, why wouldn't, you know, him not being with her also be true? Why wouldn't that also be true? Because, you know, if he, you know, knew all of that, well, I guess it's possible, but like, if he knew all that, presumably you would assume that he wouldn't go through with pursuing relations with this woman, especially if you're Thomas Wayne, super rich dude, who, if you're going to cheat on your wife, you could do it with anybody. Yeah. You know?
What about you, Ricky?
From before he got into the Arkham Asylum and got the file, I was hoping that it was all like a fabrication. And even, I don't know, the news clippings in the file and everything almost make it seem like too, I don't know, like, I don't know very many medical like folders that would have like news clippings of like things that this person did included in it. So it just feels very staged to me when I initially watched it.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe it's almost like a criminal file, but
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the other part of it is like, even when they did like the interview where she's like talking with the doctor and the doctor's like telling her everything, the way they portray like so far gone, like just mentally not there. Like, did I imagine somebody being that mentally gone and working for Thomas Wayne and like being like a nanny or whatever, like doing like secretary work?
Well, so to that point though, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, to that point though, Ricky, is like, I think this goes to like kind of what I was saying earlier, where like these kinds of things can be passed down even subconsciously without us knowing. So like, in the same way that Arthur was obsessed with Zazie, you know, and latched onto her, like, she obviously latched onto Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But just because like I was hoping, this is just me hoping that everything in Arthur's life wasn't like complete total bullshit and a lie. It was like Penny, please be okay. Like, please.
Again,
It
we're
sounds.
just such good people. We're just always hoping for the best in humanity.
I was gonna say it sounds Ricky. It sounds Joker. Keep in mind, one of the most notorious Batman villains of all time. It sounds like you went into a Joker origin movie, really optimistic about how things were gonna turn out for him.
Yeah. When they make it so realistic and normal, it's like
Just,
yeah, come on,
just
like,
so compelling.
Yeah.
Just somebody you could root for.
How did you guys feel about the mom, by the way? I hated her. She was
Yeah,
like,
no.
this lady is clearly well enough to bathe on her own. She doesn't need Arthur to do that.
She ran off and barricaded the door the minute she knew she was in.
I took an issue with that scene. I was like, I don't like this. But okay, so the final thing I kind of wanted to touch on before we get into like random tidbits is the end scene. And what you guys think is Arthur's fantasy and what you guys think isn't Arthur's fantasy. Because I know this has been highly debated. Like, oh, is what happens even... I would even argue... I mean, do you guys think he shot Murray in the first place? Like, do you think that actually happened?
Yeah.
I'd say that.
Okay. So then everything after that, what are your thoughts on that? Is that just a fantasy? Or is that shit real in that universe?
It's hard to say because the way they film it, it's spliced together with the Bruce Wayne parents dying, which we obviously know really happened. So like, because it's thrown together with that, I'm inclined to believe that it actually happened, just because like from a filmmaking perspective, like that just wouldn't be good filmmaking That just wouldn't be good filmmaking, in my opinion, to like throw something in there that is clearly real because we know the story, we know it's real, we know it really happens, but something that's supposed to be fantasy. Usually, you do it with a little bit more like finesse and artistry, and that just seems like poor editing.
Okay.
Than anything.
Let me throw
was the case.
Let me throw an idea out there for you. Let's just say that it is fantasy, right? And as we know in Arthur's fantasy, nothing ever goes wrong. So he doesn't get arrested, right? He gets saved by this mob of admirers, right? They fucking raise him up like Jesus.
Everybody else in the car dies except for him.
Except for him, right? So to that point, when you're talking about Bruce's parents dying, at this point, he fucking hates Thomas Wayne, right? So in his mind, what would be great for what would happen to Thomas Wayne in his mind? He would die. And I think possibly a reason why Bruce doesn't react at all is because this is Arthur's fantasy. This is all he knows about Bruce is he doesn't react. He doesn't do shit. He just kind of stares blankly at shit that happens. So in his fantasy, of course, that's how Bruce is going to react because he's never seen him hysterical. He fucking stuck his fingers in his mouth and shit. And he was like, yeah, cool. Parents dead. Cool. I'm Bruce Wayne. Like, just an idea.
Look,
just throwing it out there.
That would be cool. That's a cool take. I think that's brilliant. But like, I think, and like, not to take anything away from Todd Phillips, I think he's a brilliant director in and of itself. But I don't think this movie is like I said, like that would be awesome. That'd be cool. But I don't think this movie is as brilliant as like that. Something like that would make it out to be.
I'm better than you, like, Todd.
Like, no, but like, think about it, right? Like, think of how
I know how to do movies more than you, bitch. No,
but think of how absurd, like, a lot of the things that happen in this movie that we do know are within or canon within the actual movie in real life within the movie, right? Like, for example, the fact that 3 people are murdered, right, on a bus. And no matter how you feel about rich people at this time, I know tensions are high. Like, the fact that this person that killed 3 people would become a martyr, not a martyr, but would become a symbol and a hero among these protesters that are protesting for something that is genuine and good, and that, look, we want equity here, we want equality here in like the way that we're being treated as a class. And like, I know like people get fed up and stuff, but like it's never gonna be that bad. Like, look at 2020, you know, and what's like, because this is one of my problems with the movie, is how it paints protesters. Like, we talk about the rich, like Thomas Wayne being an asshole. The protesters aren't exactly good either. Like, they're all painted as assholes too, who are willing to latch on to a murderer and make him a hero, despite how much of an assholes we know those three guys were. They didn't deserve to die.
Yeah.
You know, clearly.
Well, could I make an argument or a statement?
Yeah.
I think that the first two is self-defense. The third one, okay, is murky. Yeah, murder. But for the first two,
you're not wrong.
I think that is definitely self-defense.
Sure, but in the court of law, you could argue those first two, but the third one doesn't hold up, and that makes your first two killings moot.
The third one then is mental illness. That's the argument. I got the whole legal plan.
So that's that's the thing, right? Apparently, so like at the end of all this, he's at Arkham Asylum.
Arkham again,
Yeah.
He's not in prison. He's not on death row. He's nothing. He's still being treated. So, I mean,
Which, look, even if you're mentally unstable, again, that wouldn't happen. Like, even Charles Manson, who didn't actually commit the murders himself,
that's what I'm
in, like,
saying. So it's like, did he actually fucking kill Murray?
Well, that, yeah, like, I think, like, Ricky, right? We all agree that act, right? Like, I know you're posing the question, but
for all the hallucination that happened earlier in the movie, that's the one part, like, I want to say for sure is, like, that did happen. Like,
you're optimistic again that he did shoot.
I mean, Murray.
He at least got his one shot in. No, I mean, I do believe it happened.
Really
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, so like, you know, and then that's just one of the things that, you know, I can point to in this movie. Like, I it's kind of escaping me right now, but like, there was a few things in this movie that popped up where I'm like, this is just like, you really have to suspend your belief, you know, and like really just let the movie take you where it wants to take you. But, you know, that's like my biggest gripe specifically is like the protesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I just don't think it's realistic, and I don't think like Arthur executing somebody like on live television would cause people to optimistically take to the streets and be like, yeah, let's do it. Now's our time.
I mean, dude, like, people are fucking weird in real life. Where I do think there would be a handful of people that would kind of be all gung ho about some crazy, but not a whole city, not a whole fucking city, lower class.
Yeah.
Ricky, you were gonna say something though. Before. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So going on the protest thing, I agree that it does paint protesters in a bad light, but in my mind, I kind of like it in the sense that I know that when Batman becomes, you know, prominent and like the protector of Gotham, it's because, you know, Gotham has turned and has gone so astray, that's so, you know, corrupt now. This, to me, in my mind at least, is like laying down the groundwork for like, this is the start of the corruption in the city. Like, this is the beginning of why Gotham needs Batman, basically.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's a good point.
Which, look, within like a movie like the 1989 Batman, 100%. I can get behind, but like when it comes to these movies that like really push hard to base themselves in reality, that's where I kind of like fault them, because you're really trying to sell me that this is a real world, you know, with how realistic you try to paint these characters, and then you do some shit like this. You know, it's kind of like, again, I know this isn't the Nolan cast, but it's kind of like, you know, some of the liberties that Christopher Nolan does in his movies, like, you know, like what happens in The Dark Knight Rises, right, where it basically becomes martial law and the city becomes the Wild West, and everybody's just like, it becomes like, it's insane, like it's just not realistic, you know. So like, you know, I feel like this movie kind of falls into that territory too, with how much it really, and like that's another thing, a problem I have with the movie is like how much it almost feels like it's celebrating Arthur, when like his story is tragic, don't get me wrong, and you should feel sympathetic and bad for him, but like the minute he kills those people, like he crosses the line. And when you cross that line, I feel like you have to really walk a thin line of how you portray that person if that person is the main character of your movie. And I don't think Todd Phillips necessarily does a good job of that, because he makes it, there are people, incels on fucking 4chan and Reddit and shit that sympathize with this guy and think of this guy as like a movie like depiction of them, and they identify with him, and I think that's a super dangerous thing. And I don't think the movie does a good enough job of really drawing a line in the sand saying, this is a movie, this is a character, this is a tragic story, a tale of what do they call that, like when like a tale of caution, right? A precautionary tale. So like, you know, I don't think the movie takes that stand at all. It really tries to just be as ambiguous as possible, which I don't know, with the movie, with what you're showing us on the screen, I don't think you can necessarily do that.
Interesting. I think with Joker though, it's just a tough thing to do. Like, did you really want to walk out of this movie hating Joker? Like, it's one of those things where it's like people just love the Joker in general, right? Like, it's like Deadpool, right? Like, people love Deadpool. It doesn't matter what kind of fucked up shit he does or says.
But that's the thing, right? Like, again, I keep hating to do this, but like Heath Ledger's Joker, right? You love him, but you love him because what he's doing is so ridiculous and so like comic booky. Like, it's based in reality. It still tries to be based in reality, but it's so like it's so out of the realm of what could possibly happen that you're able to separate yourself from it and you can enjoy it for what it is, which is a character in a movie on screen. But Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips really tried to create an interpretation of the Joker that felt real, you know? And that's kind of why I feel like it doesn't work in the same way that people love the Joker character, you know?
So are you saying that they failed to make him realistic?
No, I think that's the problem, is that they succeeded in
realistic.
Realistic, yeah, too realistic.
Gotcha. But what I was going to say, but at the end of the day, you're trying to make a movie that people will enjoy, right? So message aside, at the end of the day, if people walked out of this movie hating the Joker, do you think, you know, people would hold this movie in a high regard, or would it just be like, oh, that movie sucks, like fucking Joker sucks in that movie, like blah blah blah? Well, because it's like everyone says they want more realistic outcomes in movies, right? But if you're watching a movie and the hero dies, it kind of sours it a little bit sometimes. You know, and it's like, oh, well, it's
I think,
like I said,
I think
it's
there's
tricky.
I think there's a way you can do it. So like, I think, for example, like take like a lot more lighthearted, but take Thanos, for example, right? Like, really fucked up character. What he wants to do is fucking terrible, but you can also kind of see
there
where
are
he's
people. Yeah, there are people who say
you can see where he's sure you could see where he's coming from, right? But never once, like, people can still separate that this is like a character in a movie, and they don't necessarily they don't think they're Thanos, right? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that help with that. Obviously, him being a giant purple man helps, but like
testicle chin.
But like he doesn't. There's no points, even though you get where he's coming from. There's no points where the movie really tries hard to make you feel sympathetic for him.
Yeah,
and like you don't walk out of that movie hating him, but you know he's bad.
I think it's just one of those things that's a problem with Batman cinematic universe is everyone is expecting it to be grounded. Everyone wants realism in a Batman movie. And I think that's where your issue kind of stems from, is that like they can't go comic booky with it because no one wants that from a DC movie. They've tried and it's terrible.
Yeah.
But so, okay, just real quick. Everything after Murray gets shot, fantasy, yes or no? Go ahead.
I'm gonna say not fantasy.
Not fantasy.
Okay. So let's go on to some random tidbits before we get in the game. Something I thought was kind of funny was that the whole movie is like oh, I thought my life was a tragedy, but it's a comedy. Well, Todd Phillips goes from directing comedies to tragedies. It's like, wow, cool. Also, Arthur never eats. There's not one scene in this movie where he eats.
Even
Even
scene,
his fridge is empty. He just like
even the scene where you think he's gonna eat, he just takes all the stuff out and gets inside of the fridge.
yeah, he doesn't eat. And they make a whole point about like his mom goes, Arthur, you need to eat more. Blah blah blah. He never fucking eats.
Yeah, he did, and by the end of the movie, he doesn't even eat his goddamn pills.
No, he doesn't eat anything.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into our casting game. So
I thought this was gonna be so much more than just that. Just oh, by the way, he doesn't eat.
no, that's it. Just random tidbits.
It's like okay, thanks.
Oh, here's
Mom.
another random tidbit. So the opening title, the one that the yellow Joker font, they did that in such a fucking unnecessary way. Apparently, they filmed the letters and then like filmed it again and then imposed it on film to the screen. It's like you could have done that in 2 seconds in Photoshop, but whatever.
I don't know. You think it would have looked as good? Because I don't know. Maybe for whatever reason, it just didn't look.
They
as
said
good.
it added like there was like a certain film grain. They wanted it to feel like it actually came out in the 70s. But I mean, whatever, right? I just thought, that budget could have been saved, but whatever.
It's like Christopher Nolan fucking blowing up a real plane, bro. Just CGI.
Apparently that was cheaper, though. Apparently it was cheaper to blow up a real plane.
And go figure, it looks a lot better too.
So I kind of wanted to play a game where we cast some of the lesser known Batman villains if they were to be adapted in movies.
I love this game.
But a lot of them were really obscure, and I don't know if all of us collectively would have enough information on backstory. So what I did was I went with Arkham Knight villains, so that we kind of have some familiarity with them and what they're about. So the first character I would like us to cast is Hush. If Hush was in a real movie, who would you cast?
See, I feel like that's a little bit hard because I need to know who's playing the Batman.
Okay, so that brings me to my picks, okay? So I'll start it off. So if this was Ben Affleck's Batman, right? I would cast John Hamm as Hush.
I don't know who that is.
Mad Men. Don Draper.
I've never seen it.
Fuck, what would you know that he was in? Bridesmaids? Have you seen Bridesmaids?
when it came out.
He plays the douchebag with the Porsche.
I'll just assume this is a great pick. Great pick.
What do you think, Ricky? You know who John Hamm is.
I do. I love John Hamm, and I think that would actually work pretty well for
right?
him.
That'd be sick. If it was Ben Affleck's. So if it was Robert Pattinson's, I'm kind of feeling Andrew Garfield.
Sorry, I just think of Andrew Garfield.
I like Andrew Garfield. I don't think I've ever seen a really challenging role though.
Exactly. That's why I want to see it happen.
Because like Robert Pattinson, we know he can fucking act his little ass off. You know,
he can act his tight ass off.
Yeah, just toned ass off.
Tight ass with his toned abs. Jawline chiseled from the gods.
I'm trying to think of like who's been in some who's a younger actor that's been in some edgier movies. Like,
Ricky, do you have a pick real quick?
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know that I do, and part of the reason is because I'm terrible with actor names. First off, so there's that little tidbit in there. But I don't know that I can think of anybody else. A pass, I think, for now.
Okay, Austin.
Oh, you know who I actually really like as an actor? Who did you guys watch the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the guy that plays, we just watched this recently, which is why he's coming to mind. But the guy that plays Orlando Bloom's son, William
That
Turner's
guy.
son.
So that guy.
He's
he was in
he's in a horror
Maleficent.
movie that I was he?
He actually plays Robin.
Because
he plays Robin in Teen Titans.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
you're
in
kinda on
a
there.
horror movie that he's in a horror movie I love called Oculus. And he's really good in that too. So I think he'd be interesting pick for that. I mean, Rami
Opposite-
Malek's kind of a cheat code for the Batman DC
So
universe. Like, I feel like
we're
Rami
getting
Malek-
we're getting to Rami Malek because he's
Could
on
be
the
a lot
list.
of roles.
He's on the list. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on. Mad Hatter.
Ooh.
Johnny Depp.
Right?
He's done it once
See what you
already.
did there.
Yeah.
All right, Ricky, you got a pick?
Not yet.
Okay.
Jim Carrey was not ever a Mad Hatter, right? That would never happen.
No, he was already the Riddler too. People would just know him as the Riddler.
That's right. Oh no.
All right, I'll inspire you guys real quick. If we're going older, Mad Hatter. Oh, go ahead, Austin.
Who's the guy that played It?
Oh, Bill
Pennywise.
Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård.
He'd be good. I like that. So my pick, if we're going in older, Mad Hatter, Alan Cumming. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He played Nightcrawler in the old X-Men movies, and he is the villain in the Spy Kids movies. He also starred in Cabaret, the Broadway play. But I think he'd be really good as the Mad Hatter. I had like 3 picks. So if we're going younger, I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if you guys are like familiar with Schitt's Creek, but Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
Daniel Levy would be kind of interesting. And then my alternate choice is Charlie Heaton, who is from Stranger Things. He plays the brother, the one who dates the sister. I'm forgetting his name right now. But him.
Those older brother.
Yeah, the little brother the brother of the kid who gets in the Upside Down. Fuck, what is his name?
Yeah,
Can
Jonathan is
I
his name.
I forgot his name, but that guy.
can I get Neil Patrick Harris to play the Bad Hatter?
Oh.
I think that might be an interesting take.
I feel like I don't know if he can. It would just feel like Neil Patrick Harris to me. Like, I don't know if he'd be able to spin it.
He played Count Olaf in series of
Yeah,
Unfortunate
and that was
Events.
still just Neil Patrick Harris to me. That's why I have a hard time with Neil Patrick Harris, as much as I love him. But those are my picks for Mad Hatter. I had a lot of fun with that one.
How about Mads Mikkelsen?
It'd be interesting to see him kind of be more lighthearted. He's always so serious. Why are you so serious?
Yeah.
Why you so mad, Mads?
How about Bobby Lee as the Mad Hatter? Let's get some Asian representation
Sure.
in there.
Why not? All right, moving on. This one's an obvious one. We've talked about this in the past, but Red Hood, Rami Malek, 100% Rami Malek.
I don't know. I feel like Red Hood might be like, yeah, he's got the charisma. He's got the charisma for it, but I feel like because you don't see his face really.
This
I
one
guess
you
they
would
could just
see
do
his
interpretation
face.
where you see his face.
This one he would be taking off his helmet
Yeah,
quite
like
a bit.
I feel like you need to see like his expression.
His crazy eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if not Rami, I don't know, fucking Timothy Chalamet. I don't know.
I mean, I could see that kind of
I
working.
could kind of see it. He just needs to bulk up, but
Oh, who's the guy from that was in Midsummer and Bandersnatch? The game dev guy.
the fucking weird looking guy. Wasn't that the guy?
The one that's like
from what's that RV movie with Jason Sudeikis?
Yeah. Yeah, that
Isn't
guy.
that him? That's him, right?
Yeah, that's the guy.
For
Yeah,
that
he's
reason
just
alone,
he-
I can't do it. Red
No.
Hood's too cool. I just can't.
He's a cool dude. I don't know if we're talking about the same person. He's in Midsummer. What's his name, man? He's got like the freckles.
Is
Yeah, that's the guy.
fucking yeah, that's the dude.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, that's him. I can't for some reason. I just can't. If you're gonna put yeah, if
Will
you're gonna
Poulter?
put him, you can put well, he already played the Joker in Gotham, but the guy that they got for Jedi Knight Fallen Order, the guy they based the character on, you could get him instead of that guy, and I think it'd be
He's cool. I like
immensely
him
better. Ricky, any thoughts? Red Hood?
I'll stay with your guys' picks.
Rami Malek.
Yeah.
What about Ryan Reynolds?
He's too old. I think he's too old.
That's true. He doesn't play Jason Todd. Oh man.
All right, moving on. So he's already been casted, but I think it would be an interesting thing to see who would cast as Mr. Freeze.
Huh. Can we do Arnold? Can we do Arnold for old time's sake?
Sure, why not? You want to bring back Arnold, Mr. Freeze?
No, I'm just saying. No. Oh, fuck. Why am I blanking on all of these actors? Wait, who's the guy that played fucking Michael Keaton?
Oh, okay.
Might be
Oh, that
kind
would
of
be
The
interesting.
go-to villain guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Mark Strong. So he plays the villain in Shazam, and he is Merlin in Kingsman. He reminds me of the animated series Freeze. So I think he'd be kind of cool to do it. Yeah. So that would be my pick. About you, Ricky?
Vin Diesel.
Let's not.
I was gonna say, I think he was. Oh my god, he was in the third Spider-Man.
Okay. Let's see.
with
Oh,
Peter
Paul
Parker.
Giamatti,
Uh,
the Rhino guy.
no,
Oh,
not him, not
okay.
him. Is it
Paul Giamatti, the guy you see at the
No,
very end.
He's Amazing Spider-Man. That's Amazing Spider-Man too.
Oh, you're right.
or
You're right.
Amazing
You're right.
Spider-Man.
You're right.
okay, that one.
My bad. So Spider-Man 3. Are you talking about the Sandman guy?
The Sandman guy. I think his face, that look, is like the look of a Mr. Freeze. I could see.
You look ice cold. J.K. Simmons.
He looked like he could really.
J.K. Simmons could be interesting.
He could.
He could be interesting.
Could. All right. So, wait, who was your pick, Austin? Did you have a
Oh,
pick?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. That's a solid choice.
Yeah.
All right. Professor Pig.
Who?
Professor Pig. The guy with he was like the butcher, and he had the pig on his head.
Oh. That was in
He
Arkham
sang-
Knight?
He sang opera. Yeah.
Oh, God. I thought that was Arkham City. Holy shit. That feels so long ago. Mr. Pig. John Hamm.
I gotta go. On that note,
Go first, Ricky. Let me think on this one.
the John Hamm is just gonna completely derail me in my thought process now. Like that's the only that I can think of now. Yeah, I have to pass too for now.
Okay.
You know who I'd like to see go like, 'cause that dude's batshit crazy, right? And like sings opera and shit.
Yeah.
You know who I'd like to see go batshit crazy in that kind of role? John Goodman.
Oh,
we get a little
nice.
bit. We get a
Nice.
we get a little bit of that in 10 Cloverfield Lane, you know. And
That
like,
is a
I
solid
want to see him
choice.
go full.
I like that.
I want
a
to see him
lot.
go full crazy.
So I have one. Vincent what's his name? Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio. He is in Full Metal Jacket, and more notably, I think what we would be familiar with is he's in Men in Black. He plays the fucked up alien guy, the cockroach dude.
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd be
Water,
pretty dope.
sugar water.
Yeah. And
Daredevil.
yeah, Kingpin and Daredevil. I think he'd be pretty cool as Professor Pig.
Nope.
Alternate choice, Rainn Wilson.
Because of his nose.
Yeah. But I also think
That might
because
that might be kinda interesting.
he can act dramatically. Like he has those acting chops in
Sure.
him, and that I think he could do a pretty good job as Professor Pig, because he's such an off the wall weird villain. I think he could do it. Austin?
I'm gonna stick with John Goodman.
All right. Oh yeah, I forgot. All right, last but not least, I don't believe he was in Arkham Knight, but I think it'd be fun to cast anyway, is Azrael.
Yeah, he was.
Was he in Arkham Knight too? I forget.
I think so.
I know
yeah.
he was in City for sure.
I think he was in City as just like a cameo. He appeared in the background when you're facing the Mad Hatter. Like he's like watching you from above, and I think in Arkham Knight that's when you have your thing with him. I think, right?
Something I you know what? Honestly, the game, like you said, like you were surprised that who was it?
They start to blend.
Yeah, they all blend together because those are the only two I played, so they all blend together for me. But yeah, Azrael. Ricky,
I got nothing.
you know who that is though, right? Like,
Idris Elba,
okay, that's not bad. That'd be cool.
or who else? Who's that guy that everybody? He's from Alita Battle Angel as the villain. Mahershala Ali,
Hmm.
right? That's his name.
Let me look
Yeah.
it up. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Yeah.
He'd be interesting too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got Keanu Reeves. I think it'd be kind of cool. I feel like he can do that candor that Azrael had, that whole vibe.
Nick Cage.
Who would Nicolas Cage play in the DC universe?
Polka Dot Man. Condiment King.
Doctor Strange. Well, not Doctor Strange, Hugo Strange.
Oh, who would play Hugo Strange? Actually, that's a good one. That's
Oh,
a really good
I
character.
was
actually,
saying,
I'm surprised he hasn't been in a movie.
I was saying Nicolas Cage would play Hugo Strange.
You like for real have Nicolas Cage play Hugo Strange?
No, I don't. I was just answering. But
Yeah.
Gotham did something cool with Hugo Strange, and they casted BD Wong. So that was fucking dope.
Ooh,
He was really
that's pretty
good. He
tight.
was very like campy, but it was dope. So yeah.
I fuck with that.
I am surprised that Doctor Strange or Hugo Strange hasn't made it into a movie yet.
He's such a good character.
He really is. But Ricky, any casting choices for Hugo?
Nick- I don't.
I got it. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
That's a joke because he's already Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Hugo Strange is hard for me. I couldn't really pin it down because it seems like he'd be such a fun character to play, and I feel like a lot of actors could probably tap into that. So
Oh, you know who? Let me change my pick for Azrael. I think Donald Glover would be kind of cool.
His voice is too wimpy for me.
Yeah, I guess.
He
But
doesn't, like-
okay, well, how about this? Because I feel like Donald Glover could play like a really cool villain within the universe, the DC universe, Batman specifically.
Yeah, I think he could too, but not as real.
How about Slade?
Has there been a good? Oh, there has been a good Slade, but he was on the Green Arrow show.
Well,
so there's that.
is he not in the Suicide? Or that's not him, huh?
That's a different guy. That's fucking what's his name? Joe Migliano. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah, who's he playing? It's not.
He plays Slade.
Oh, he is playing Slade.
Yeah, he plays Slade already. He's at the end of the Deathstroke. He's at the end of, I forget if it was like Suicide Squad or Justice League. I don't remember which after credit scene he was in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, that's all I got right now for that game. So some pretty good picks.
Can
there.
I suggest
John Goodman? That's a good one.
While we're in the casting, let me throw this out here.
Okay.
If you could recast Joker for this, Arthur Fleck for this movie, or like for a Joker origin movie, who would you cast?
Jared Leto.
How about Jared? Hell no. Get that out of here.
How about Jared? Let it go. Give him another chance. That's really fucking hard. Huh. Rami Malek. No, I'm just kidding.
I like, honestly, that was like I know that Ricky said that he feels like the character Arthur Fleck is in his late 20s, early 30s, but he just does not look like that
he
to
looks
me at all.
fucking
Like, I
old
just don't buy that.
old as balls.
So like I would prefer somebody younger if we're talking a Joker origin story.
Okay, so let's just say we're casting the dude who was inspired by this Joker, who was inspired by Arthur Fleck. So now,
Okay, sure.
the Joker. Who are we casting as the Joker?
It's canon.
I guess
He's
we're
acknowledged it.
skipping
You heard it
a
here.
Joker and going straight to the Joker. Oh man, it's crazy because like a lot of the actors that play Joker are so radically different, so you can go in so many different directions with it. Oh man.
Macaulay Culkin? Question mark.
Oh.
I mean, that kind of has maybe like a crazy, like a natural kind of crazy look to them to
That-
kind of compliment. For
What is
Joker.
he? What is he?
That
What has he
could
been
be.
in recently?
I honestly can't
I have
remember
no idea.
anything recently.
Yeah, I have no
Like
idea.
I don't even have a feel for how he acts as an adult.
Hmm.
What about the friend from Shazam? Or is he too young? The guy who was like helping him train with the camera and shit.
Yeah, I think he's too young.
He could be too young.
Like I was thinking more like mid-20s.
Okay. So
Aaron Egerton.
It's kind of unfortunate that he's Batman, because I feel like Robert Pattinson would have been cool to see.
yeah,
Like I've seen, like he's really thrown himself in dark roles, and like he's so good. Like when he goes that route.
actually,
So like,
it's a shame that what's his name? The guy who plays Flash. Ezra Miller.
Oh,
it's actually
yeah.
a shame he's already the
Yeah.
Flash.
Oh,
I think he would have been pretty good as the Joker, because I've seen him like outside of like his characters, and he already dresses kind of like out there and kind of has a lot of style to him. I think it would have been really cool to see him
Yeah.
do it. So that was a
and
missed
he already
opportunity.
punched like a, and he already allegedly punched a girl.
if not him, the asshole brother from Stranger Things. So he plays the Red Ranger in the Power Rangers movie, the newer one. You know what I'm talking? The guy who like worked out and was like had a thing for Miss Wheeler.
Oh, that guy.
I think
Yeah.
he might be pretty interesting. What the fuck is his name? I forgot his name. He's
I
Australian.
imagine him without that stupid like
Without
porn
the
star mustache
stupid,
that he has. Though.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all I can picture for him.
I think he might be pretty good. He was good at kind of playing like a demented kind of weird dude.
That's true. He was, yeah.
Man, that's a tough one. We might have to circle back to that, but I mean, Ezra Miller would be cool.
Like, yeah, the Joker is such an interesting character. Like, I feel like there's so many different ways you can go about it and so many different interpretations you can take, and it could still be really cool.
Yeah.
But like, it's also a character that requires a lot of finesse, right? Mm-hmm. Like,
there's a lot of nuances.
You can. There's a lot of nuance to it, and you could either be a Heath Ledger or a Joaquin Phoenix, or you could be a fucking Jared Leto. And like, I mean, I don't know. Even like, I'm even willing to even throw Jack Nicholson in there, kind of too. Where like, I mean, I know it was a sign of the time, so you can't really blame him or anything. But like, yeah. I don't know. I really feel like his Joker, while it does have its moments of like brilliance and coolness, like it doesn't hold up as well.
There's one part to his Joker that I thought was really cool, and it's he would put makeup on to make himself look normal, and then like in certain scenes it would rub off and you would see white. I was like, oh, that's sick. That's
a cool touch.
Yeah, that's about my extent of the admiration for that Joker is. Actually, those movies in general, like I did not like Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. And there's one glaring scene in one of the movies that really, really, really bothers me. There's a shot where he takes off his mask, right? But before they go to that shot, I could be remembering this wrong, but there's literally a scene where he has no eye black. It's just a mask, and
they talk about
right. Oh, I fucking hate that scene. Yeah, that grinds my gears. And also, I just don't think he's a good-looking dude. And in the '90s, they all had stupid hair, so just like, nah, dude, you ain't doing for me. You're not sexy and chiseled like Robert Pattinson.
You don't have a little ass.
You don't have that tight little ass. All right. Well, this is getting into 2-hour territory, which might be a little too long. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Ricky, thanks for joining us. Hope you do it again soon. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.